that there are just certain things that Christians shouldn't participate in. It's
Mhm.
just not wise.
Mhm.
It's not because, there's some mandate for it. I just
Yeah.
think that there are some things that a Christian participates in that's just going to cause you to compromise. It's not because you want to, it's the
Yeah.
nature of it. It's going to cause you to have to make decisions that you ordinarily wouldn't make.
Yeah.
And then on the other side of that, like you said, I don't think everybody's built for it. All right, thank you so much for tuning into the Church Dropout podcast. Church Dropout is a podcast. We talk about issues, topics, and teachings related to faith, life, and culture in ways that are sometimes funny, sometimes serious, but always insightful. If you have not already, please like, rate, and subscribe where you're listening to this podcast at. And as always, drop a comment below. Keep the conversation moving forward. And as usual, I am joined by my lovely co-host,
Lisa.
Caught you, huh? You was about to say hello. You thought I was gonna say Lisa?
No, I don't know what you was gonna say. I just know my part is Lisa.
How you doing, Lisa? How you feeling, Lisa?
Lisa.
Yeah. All right. Well, today is going to be an interesting topic.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a topic that I would assume our audience is unfamiliar with. Because it is plastered all over the news.
Yes.
It is a part of the regular news cycle, which is interesting because depending on what comes out as a result of this, it will probably fall out of the news cycle in a minute because it has the potential to bury a lot of people. But, we're going to talk about the situation with P. Diddy. We're not going to talk about so much of the indictment and different things of that sort. But what we are going to talk about is just some things that I think we can learn from this particular situation, learn from his spiral at this particular moment. Right. And hopefully, speak to those who are in pursuit of a similar lifestyle, but then, also just some barriers, some things to just watch for. I think there's some things there that, can be gleaned. You know what I mean? And so we're going to talk about P. Diddy. Now, let me just say this up front. I will not call him I will not call him Puff Daddy.
Okay.
Okay. Because no grown man should be calling another man daddy. Like he was doing on the videos. Okay. Not the freak off videos, but I mean, I don't know what he was doing on the freak off videos, but there's a couple of videos out there where he was just like,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We got a party, daddy.
Yeah. When you gonna party with me, daddy?
Yeah. So we not calling him Puff Daddy.
Yeah.
I will not call another man daddy. That is not cool. Okay. But or Brother Love.
Brother Love.
Yeah, he changed. That's what his last name.
I thought it was just Love. He was calling himself Brother Love.
Brother Love. That whole thing is just
a mess.
It is a mess.
Okay,
it is absolutely.
So we just gonna call him Diddy.
We can call him whatever, because we can call him whatever you want to call him. I'll call him Puff. Sean Combs might be the best way to address it at this point. But yeah, just an unfortunate situation, in all seriousness. If there are victims out there, to those victims, who had to live with this for a long time, I can only imagine, what it feels like now to feel like there's a sense of justice when for so many years, people just didn't believe a lot of these stories or, you didn't have a voice.
Right.
And it seems like, that will be rolling around soon. But, again, having to live with those things, I think is a whole different, perspective.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but I want to talk about it a little bit. Yeah. Any particular thoughts you want to share before we get into it? Go ahead. Go ahead. I know you got some things on your mind.
Well, of course, these are allegations, but from the history and just everything, I just, was never a fan. Just, the way I viewed, through watching on TV and everything, I just, I didn't like the way he treated people, just the way he spoke to people, males, females, anybody,
Yeah.
I think that celebrityism, the
Mm-hmm.
stardom?
Yeah. That's one.
That I just feel like it just went to his head, and he just felt like, what is that? I'm on top of the world.
Yeah.
Is that on Titanic?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, and he just lived that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Everybody's
Absolutely.
beneath me, and I will treat you as that.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting point that you bring up because, I mean, really, does this take anyone by surprise?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Right.
I mean, when you look at the course of history and seeing how he's treated people, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
on some of his shows,
Mm-hmm.
making people run miles to get cheesecake, how he
Mm-hmm.
treated, his assistant Farnsworth, whatever the guy's name is,
Mm-hmm.
and just how he reacted on shows,
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
attitude, a lot of this shouldn't be very surprising.
Yeah.
And I think also, you know, culture and society is part culpable for
Mm-hmm.
these type things because
Mm-hmm.
we allow people to function this way.
Yes. Yeah.
And let me say this. This is the problem with Black excellence.
Mm-hmm.
This whole idea of Black excellence
Mm.
where we highlight what people do well
Mm-hmm.
and we ignore
Hmm.
the mess.
Hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like, like when I was younger, my dad, this is gonna sound bad, but when you 10, 11 years old, you don't, like my dad would be like, you musty boy,
Mm-hmm.
is
Mm-hmm.
musty even, is that real? I don't even
In
know. Okay. So anyway, he would
in
just
our
be like,
world, yeah.
okay, yeah, probably. But he'd be like, you musty boy, right?
Uh-huh.
And I would just go put deodorant on. And he'd be
Mm-hmm.
like, boy, you can't just cover up you need to take a bath. Get your butt in the water. You know what I'm saying? Like, but that's what it's kind of like, right? It's
Uh-huh.
like a lot of this Black excellence stuff is putting deodorant on funk.
Mm.
That, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like
Mhm.
it's just,
Mhm.
and we got to address this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it
Yeah.
doesn't matter how great a person is if their character is out of line with their greatness.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
just the reality of the matter.
Right.
And and now we got all these people who are talking about it, coming out and talking about it. I'm talking about individuals that were close to Sean Combs.
Mhm.
And it's like, but where were those conversations
Mhm.
then?
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
can't say if they did have conversations with him or others or anything like
Mhm.
that, but I think it's a huge problem. But
Yeah.
but now it's going to be something huge
Yeah.
as all of this unfolds. And
Yeah.
so kind of just jumping into what we want to talk about just in general to this situation is like, when we think of Sean Combs, the first thing that comes to mind or doesn't come to mind is like Christian theology or just,
No.
you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
at all.
At all.
Or, anything that has to do with virtues or anything like that. It's not the first thing that comes, but I think it's very poignant.
Mhm.
Jesus says something that I think, this particular situation embodies. And
Mhm.
this is really the heart of what, I want to talk about, and then bring out some nuances in that. But Jesus says that, what good does it do for a man to profit or to gain the whole world
Mhm.
and to lose his soul?
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
And here we have an individual who gained the world, so to
Mhm.
speak, right?
Mhm.
Had the
Mhm.
ear of the most powerful individuals, had more money than he could spend.
Yeah.
For all intensive purposes, he gained the world,
Yeah.
had relationships,
Mhm.
and in the end, he's sitting in a cell.
Mhm. Hmm.
I mean, can you imagine going from a place of servants and butlers and eating any type of food you want and
Mhm.
having people serve you and
Mhm.
um, to a cell that you could probably, put your hand on both sides of the wall at the same
Mhm.
time?
Mhm.
It's an amazing reality.
Yeah.
And I think it is a picture of, really what Jesus is saying.
Hmm.
And I think as human beings, I think as human people, as human people, is there any other type of human?
I was
I was flowing and then
right.
that just caught me. Human people, as human people.
Oh.
But as human beings, I think there's some things that, we ought to learn from this. And even as Christians, I think, again, this celebrityism, as you mentioned earlier, is something that I think is permeating all aspects of life. And I think, unfortunately, this has also crept into the church. And I think there's a lesson there for those who reverence God and believe. And then also for just individuals who are seeking that, because, again, it's not as uncommon as we would think. And so there's just 7 things that I want to list here, and we just can kind of chop it up but I think it's all under the umbrella of a person who's gaining the world and losing their soul. But I just want to talk about some key aspects that, we could see from this particular story situation. So first, I think one of the things that really sticks out is, the corruption of power, or the corrupting nature of power, right? We think, you mentioned this earlier about he entered into this genre or business, obviously with nothing, and then humility, right? Like, not that he was humble, but with humility. He didn't have any power, right? Um, but, once you start to gain influence, and you start to gain, finance, money, different things of that sort, when you have the power, and when you have the power, and when you now have what you didn't have before, namely power, where you really start to see what that looks like. You really start to see like
Someone's
how you
true
respond.
character.
Yes. It reveals who you truly are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I haven't seen this franchise. I don't even know if I got it through the first movie, but kind of reminds me like just the Lord of the Rings type thing. Have you seen that? Yeah, I know you don't even like movies like that. You probably ain't seen a commercial.
No, I know. When you say Lord of the Rings, I picture like this big like dragon that's like flying. Is that part of Lord of the Rings?
No. Okay. And I don't, why would you be like, I just picture, no.
There's
It's not
no
about dragons.
dragon.
About hobbits and
I know,
stuff
but
like
there's
that.
nobody that there's like not a big dragon that's like got these big wings flying. No,
you're talking about boy. Now I did watch that show, but what's the name of that show?
an old show,
Yeah.
The Land Before Time.
Oh my goodness! What in the world, The Land Before Time? Isn't that like a children's movie?
I don't know.
Yeah, but anyway, no. Anyway. So there's another franchise I was just talking about, but it's not a movie; it's a TV show. But anyway, no.
Oh, Game of Thrones.
Yes, I think that's what you're thinking about when you talk about dragons and stuff like that. But Lord of the Rings is, basically the what I'm referring to is there's this ring that has this power, and it corrupts the hearts of people who are good when they get this ring, and they possess this ring. It starts to take control, and in some senses reveal their character, and they can't let go of the ring. They can't. And it's kind of like that. Like, we can believe that we can respond in certain situations, but I think we have to realize that, we can't. You understand what I'm saying? Like, power, it's not to say that power in and of itself is bad. It just has a corrupting nature, especially when you give it to individuals who are flawed to begin with.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
We are all flawed to begin with.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So when we pursue power, and we think about this story, like we ought to think about like, how power corrupts, or how power can corrupt. And interestingly, as human beings, I'm not sure, I'm very sure that we're not meant to be isolated with power, right? We were meant to be in community with one another. But anyway, the second thing is just the allure of success. You know what I mean? Like, we all love a success story. You know what I mean? And we all want to be, to some degree, a success.
Yeah.
And it's alluring to want to be successful and to chase after, success. but that could become a trap.
Mm-hmm.
Success can become a trap. And we see that it's ensnared many, this idea of being famous and the success. But you're going to
Mm-hmm.
say something?
Yeah, because I think there's a right and a wrong way to be successful.
That's good.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
when you're reaching for success, but you feel you need to tear some people down to get there, then that's an issue.
Yeah. And I think, would that be considered success, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you've gotten there that way, is that success? And that kind
Mm-hmm.
of goes back to what I was saying earlier about just Black excellence
Mm-hmm.
and this idea. And it's not just Black excellence, but it's just the idea of the world, right? That you can be this great, successful person, but yet at the same time treat people a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And this happens a lot, especially in hip hop culture,
Yeah.
where we got men who are being revered as artists
Mm-hmm.
and they don't even take care of their kids.
Mm.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
just think about that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
mean, just think about, like, man, how backwards is that? That
Right.
this man has a family that he's not taking care of, but yet we
We want to
are
treat them like role models, and
right,
yeah.
right. You see what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? And
Mm-hmm.
so, but yeah, success can be a trap. You know what I mean? It could be a trap, right? And it can cause people to compromise their values, their integrity, um, and so when you pursue success, when you pursue it in an unhealthy way, yeah, this can be the result. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Success is not always a blessing. It's not a
Mm-hmm.
good thing. The other thing is chasing legacy. Just chasing legacy. When you're trying to make a name for yourself.
Yeah.
When that becomes the primary object, or the primary goal is to chase a legacy. I
Mm-hmm.
remember somebody I know told me this. A mentor said, the quickest way to lose a legacy is to try to define one or try to
Hmm.
build one,
Hmm.
right? The more you
Mm-hmm.
try to build it, you lose it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And oftentimes that's because you're not focused on the work that needs to be done. You're actually focusing on how to get there, and that involves taking advantage of people. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it becomes about the legacy itself. And so the pursuit of a legacy is a dangerous thing because you lose sight of what's important. You lose sight of what's in front of you, what's important.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
and again,
Mm-hmm.
like, you think about Sean Combs, P Diddy, um, and you think about and you think about if you think about all the people that this is affected,
Mm-hmm.
all the
Yeah.
people that this is affecting. Now, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not talking about I'm not talking about his fans and all of that. I'm talking about
Right.
his family, his
Yeah.
children, his,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of this was buried because of his chasing of a legacy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because the
Yeah.
legacy became more important than the actual work itself.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just got to be careful of this idea of chasing legacy.
Yeah.
Um, Number 4 would be like the neglect of discernment, or just overlooking discernment.
Mm-hmm.
The importance of being able to discern and judge between things,
Yeah.
especially those things that are right and wrong.
Mm-hmm.
When you don't have discernment, or you don't look at things with discerning eyes, it's the quickest way to be deceived,
Yeah.
right? If you're not honest with what is and what's there and what's in front of you, again, it will take you down. And the reality is that, especially in situations like this, there are always signposts. There are always, you know, I don't want to say warnings per
Mm-hmm.
se, but there's always like these forks in the road where it's like, am I traveling down the right path?
Yeah.
None of this ever comes out of a vacuum.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And because we lack discernment in these situations, and that could be because we see that the result is greater than the failure itself, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever that could be, because we lack discernment, and we don't properly judge between the situation. Um, you know, this is what happens.
Mm-hmm.
We end up hurting ourselves and hurting a lot of people. And again, this is just going backwards a little bit. This is the problem with success. Those are blinders.
Yeah.
They're blinders to discernment. And then here's the other part too with this. When things become normalized in
Mm-hmm.
your life, your especially negative behavior, your rule for discernment sways as well. You understand what I'm saying? Like you can almost like sear your own conscience. So what was horrific to you before is not horrific to you now. You
Yeah.
understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
why it's important to, watch watch what your eyes see,
Yeah.
watch what your hands touch, right? Because, over time you become desensitized to that, right? And, again, it kills your discernment. You don't even see these things that are blinding or dangerous objects that are coming at you, right? Because you've been enacting in it for so long. So, discernment is important. And that's something that we shouldn't neglect. We can't neglect. It's something that could have been used in this situation where wisdom could have helped to spare this. And also just discernment on those who are around you, like discernment from those who are around you. I can't imagine that nobody had a conversation with him. Do you?
Yeah.
Like somebody had to have said something.
Yeah. The only way I could say that probably somebody didn't have a conversation is because everybody around him was he was buying. He was, you know what I mean?
Yes, he was
So everybody
buying their
had
loyalty. Yeah.
everybody had their hands in his pocket. So, I can't, bite the hand that feeds me, basically. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So there probably was back in the day somebody that did say, hey, hey, hey. And then you saw what happened to that person.
Yeah.
So now that's the example. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the sad reality. I'm just, like, that's just kind of like I was saying earlier, like you got a lot of people who are now talking about it, but boy, the culpability in that situation based upon, I was getting a paycheck or, I needed my job or, go along to get along, man. It's just unfortunate.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunate, but good point. Number 5 is the illusion of success. Worldly success may bring temporary rewards, but it can lead to spiritual emptiness. I think, so let me give you an example. I remember talking to a leader one time who was chasing this one event. Like it was just like this event that was going to take place in their life, and everything that they were doing was pointed to that, and they spent hours and hours of time, days upon days, just not only fantasizing about this, but, actually going and watching and seeing and, and doing everything they can to get to this place.
Yeah.
And he told me, he was like, it dawned on him when he got there. He sat and he looked. And when he got there, he was like, is this it? You know what I mean? Like, he was like, is this it? I did all of that
for this.
And he said he felt just extremely empty. You know what I mean? Just empty, right? And that's the illusion of success, right? This idea that we all have of what making it means.
Yeah.
Only to find out that the hole that we were thinking we were filling is not a hole that could be filled by things. It's a hole that only could be filled by, being fully known and fully loved by God.
Yeah.
Right. But that emptiness that comes as a result of that is deafening.
Yeah.
And it causes people to react in many ways. Right. Just this, again, this, illusion that success somehow will bring you what you desire and what you want, it's a myth. It's a myth. You know what I mean? I mean, look where this desire and for success ended. Now, this doesn't happen to everybody.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, like, a lot of these people in that particular, area, whether it's Hollywood, just say that in general.
Yeah.
It's interesting because most of these people have stories that they look back on and they're just like, there's things that I regret and I wish I would have done differently.
Right.
Right. Because the success that they now have doesn't match the emptiness or the pain that they feel as a result of what they've done to get to where they've gotten.
Right.
Just 2 more. One is the presence of evil in the world. Now, this is something that I think, in a rationalistic Western society, we've made everything scientific to the point where, we almost ignore the supernatural, right? Everything boils down to, what can be tested in a test tube. in a lab. You understand what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
um, the reality is that there is an existence of evil,
Mm-hmm.
and
100%. Yeah.
100%. And unfortunately, some of this personifies that.
Mm-hmm.
The way people have, allegedly have been victimized, and the things that have been seen up until this point. You know, yeah, there is an influence that goes beyond just, uh, power, money. There is something wrong that
Yeah.
cannot be explained, explained by science or anything like that, but that's only explained by what the scripture would say, that, there's a war that is going on that, is deeper than what we see, or beyond what we see.
Mm-hmm.
We war against, not against flesh and blood, but against spirit and principalities.
Qualities. Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, evil exists. Evil is a very present reality in this world,
Yeah.
and we need to, we need to be concerned
Yeah.
about that. We need to think through that.
Yeah.
Um, and start calling things as they are.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, everything can't just be explained by, people's actions. There are certain things that influence this type of stuff that we open ourselves up to. And this is a situation where we see, evil is at work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And lastly, this kind of goes back to bringing it full circle, brings it, back to the beginning, the cost of the soul, just counting the cost. What will I lose by gaining this?
Mm-hmm.
What is this going to cost me? I don't think we ask those questions enough.
No.
Even when it comes to the most minor things, we just don't ask those questions enough.
Yeah.
What is this going to cost?
Mm-hmm.
And is it more important that I keep my identity, who I am? Is it more important for me to keep that than to gain this?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, we have an individual who sold himself for the fame
Yeah.
and the power, and we see the result of that.
Yeah.
That again, it's cost him everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the last thing I want to say as I close up here is how should we respond? Like, how should we respond to these things like
Yeah.
power and success, and how should we think through those things
Yeah.
as Christians? And what would even be a picture of what a life well lived look like, one that denies, or one that even avoids
Mm-hmm.
these types of pitfalls, and how these pitfalls are avoided. um I'm just reminded of Jesus and his temptation in the wilderness. And I
Yes.
think that that's a very important passage,
Yeah.
especially in relation to this.
Yeah.
Here you have the master of the universe, Jesus, who's being, tempted in the wilderness at his weakest. He's being tempted in the wilderness by Satan. And the things that he's being tempted with are things of power and
Mm-hmm.
influence,
Mm-hmm.
self-reliance,
Yeah.
the very things that we're talking about here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Success, popularity, fame, all of those things are in that actual temptation,
Yeah.
and Jesus denies all of it.
Mm.
He denies all of it,
Yeah.
and chooses to live the way God intended for us to live, which is in the presence of God, living by the words that proceed out of his mouth only. And I think, as Christians, as people of faith, who follow Jesus, I think we really need to be careful. We really need to be careful. We're
Yeah.
not exempt from this. And I'm sure everyone knows, with all the things that have been happening, even in the church world, that we're not exempt from, the, you know, the allure of success. We're not exempt from, you know, the corrupting nature of power. We're not
Mm-hmm.
exempt from, evil. In
Yeah.
fact, it's a part of our Christian worldview. And so I think we got to really, really be careful and
Yeah.
think through these things in a way that causes us to act in line with what our faith will call us to do, and not just treat them subtly.
Yeah.
not just treat them subtly, but to, walk in them, because it's reality and it's real, and people are falling. People are, experiencing these things. People are shaken by these things. This is an opportunity for us to show what power looks like,
Yes.
what control looks like. Well, meaning, like it's not
What?
something that we chase or pursue. It's actually
Right.
something that's submitted
Yeah.
at the feet of Jesus,
Yes.
and choose to live in a way that, does not reflect that, but one that reflects true kingdom values. And so anyway, just kind of wanted to at least say something about that
Yeah.
and redirect us, and hopefully our hearts are, pointing in the right direction, and that, this should cause all of us to repent
Yeah.
of our own desires, and even some of the things that we may do that are not on that scale,
Yeah.
in terms of, worshiping power and success and different things of that sort, and, reframe this and put it back in the right perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. And also thinking like, why, when we want to go head for the power or the fame or any of that, what is our desire for that? You know what I mean? And it's like just checking ourselves.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Because that's not for everybody. Honestly, I think it's few people that can handle that.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Lisa. I believe that there are just certain things that Christians shouldn't participate in. It's just not wise. It's not because, there's some mandate for it. I just think that there are some things that a Christian participates in that's just going to cause you to compromise. It's not because you want to, it's the nature of it. It's going to cause you to have to make decisions that you ordinarily wouldn't make.
Yeah.
And then on the other side of that, like you said, I don't think everybody's built for it. But here's one thing that I know for sure, and this is what's important about the New Testament and how we're called to function as a body. I was just explaining this to someone else. Like, one of the major differences in the Old Testament and New Testament is the Spirit of God now resting in all believers. And so it doesn't rest upon one individual. The Spirit of God rests on all believers, or rests in all believers. And then when God distributes the gifts, he distributes them to the body, where the body now has to depend on one another for full revelation, right? Like, so if one person has the gift of, tongues, this person has the gift of interpretation, right? If one person is prophesying, another person confirms, right? Like, everything is done within the confines of the community. And why that's important is because all of that doesn't rest in one human being.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like you need the body.
Right.
You need other people.
Right.
And so, again, I think this is part of how we've just missed the boat here in evangelicalism and Christianity today, where we still look to empower individuals when God has empowered a community.
Yes.
He's empowered a people. And yeah, I think this is, I think what you said is just key. Some things aren't for everyone. And I would even say that, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Come on now.
Yeah. And unfortunately, many of us learn that the wrong way.
Yeah.
You learn through messing up.
Yeah.
But you don't have to.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to. So anyway, that's it. This is an unfortunate situation. But if any light is to be made or is to come as a result of it, let it be that, one, we are pursuing Christ and his goodness.
Yes.
We are pursuing justice in the world for people who have no voice. And we are pushing back darkness and evil, right? And we're not only doing that by the words we speak, we're doing that by the actions we take, but then also by denying ourselves certain things that may be corruptible to the Spirit of God that lives within us. So anyway, we would love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for tuning into this podcast. As usual, drop a comment below. Please like, rate, and subscribe, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much. God bless.
Good night.